Don't scroll. You've seen them your entire life. White lines. Stretching across a perfect blue sky. Drawn by something moving faster than sound. And then they spread. They blur. They dissolve into nothing. You never asked why. Because the sky above you is being written on every single day. And what's being written tells you more about the atmosphere above your head than any classroom ever did. Here is what most people get wrong. Those white lines are not smoke. They are not exhaust fumes like a car produces. And they are definitely not chemicals being sprayed deliberately over cities. They are something far more fascinating than any of that. They are the atmosphere itself, made visible. Forced into existence by heat, cold, and physics colliding at 35,000 feet above your head. And once you understand how they form, you will never look at the sky the same way again. The phenomenon has a name. Contrails. Short for condensation trails. And they have existed since the very first jet engines took to the sky. The moment a jet engine fires, it burns fuel. That combustion produces heat. It produces carbon. And it produces something most people never think about. Water vapor. Massive amounts of it. Invisible. Superheated. Blasting out of the engine at enormous velocity. Now here is where physics takes over. At 35,000 feet the outside air temperature sits around -40 to -60 degrees Celsius. The air up there is thin. Cold beyond anything you feel on the ground. And almost completely dry. When that scorching hot water vapor from the engine hits that brutally cold air, it has nowhere to go. It cannot stay as gas. It freezes. Instantly. Crystallizing around tiny soot particles from the engine exhaust. In less than a second, invisible vapor becomes a visible white trail of ice crystals. That white line is a cloud. An artificial cloud. Built in real time by a machine moving at the speed of sound. Why some last seconds and others last hours? Here is the part that most people never understand. Not every jet leaves a contrail. And the ones that do don't always last the same amount of time. Some disappear within seconds. Others stretch across the sky for hours, spreading wider and wider until they become indistinguishable from natural cloud cover. The difference comes down to one thing. The humidity of the air at that altitude. If the air up there is dry, the ice crystals evaporate almost immediately. The contrail vanishes within seconds of forming. As if it was never there. But if the air at that altitude is already close to saturation, already carrying as much moisture as it can hold, those ice crystals have nowhere to evaporate into. They persist. They grow. They spread horizontally as wind pushes them outward. A contrail that lasts more than a minute is actually a signal. It means the upper atmosphere above you is carrying unusually high moisture. Pilots and meteorologists have known for decades that persistent contrails are one of the most reliable early indicators of incoming weather changes. The sky is writing the forecast. You just didn't know how to read it. What's actually inside a contrail? Water is the main ingredient. Ice crystals formed from the jet's water vapor exhaust. But there is more inside than just water. Jet engine combustion also releases carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxides, sulfur compounds, and soot particles. Those soot particles are actually what the ice crystals form around, acting as microscopic seeds that give the water vapor something to crystallize onto. This is the same process that forms natural clouds. Natural clouds form when water vapor crystallizes around dust particles, sea salt, and pollen floating in the atmosphere. A contrail forms when the same process happens, but triggered by the soot and heat of a jet engine instead of nature. A contrail is an engineered cloud. Produced accidentally. By a machine that was built to move people, not to manufacture weather. The stealth problem. Here is where it gets strategically dangerous. Fighter jets are designed to be invisible. They fly at extreme altitudes. They carry radar-absorbing materials. They are shaped specifically to avoid detection. But a contrail destroys all of that instantly. During World War II, long before modern stealth technology, bomber formations were betrayed by their own contrails. Enemy fighters could spot the white lines from hundreds of miles away and intercept the formation before it ever reached its target. Entire missions were compromised not by radar but by the sky revealing what was flying through it. Modern military pilots still deal with this problem. At certain altitudes and atmospheric conditions, a stealth jet that cannot be detected by any radar on Earth leaves a white line visible to the naked eye from the ground. The most advanced military technology in human history, made visible by frozen water. The climate angle nobody talks about. Contrails do something else. Something that affects every person on Earth. They warm the planet. The European Union Aviation Safety Agency found that contrails may cause up to twice the warming effect of all aircraft carbon dioxide emissions combined. Not the fuel burn. The trails themselves. Contrails trap outgoing radiation from the Earth's surface. They act like a thin artificial blanket stretched across the sky. And with tens of thousands of flights happening every single day, that blanket is never fully removed. Some researchers now believe that rerouting flights to avoid the specific atmospheric conditions that cause persistent contrails could reduce aviation's total climate impact significantly, without changing a single engine or fuel type. The white lines are not just beautiful. They are consequential. Now let the image sit with you. A machine built for speed and power. Burning fuel at a rate most people cannot comprehend. Moving through an atmosphere that was there billions of years before the first human looked up. And as it passes, it leaves a mark. Not deliberately. Not strategically. But inevitably. Because nothing moves through the world at that speed and leaves nothing behind. Machiavelli understood this. He wrote that every action taken in pursuit of power leaves a trace. That the wise man studies those traces not to judge, but to understand what passed through before him. The contrail is that trace made literal. A line written across the sky by something you barely saw. Gone before you could read it. But real. Measurable. Consequential. Power always leaves a mark. Even when it tries not to. The next time you look up and see those white lines stretching across the sky, you will know what you are looking at. Not smoke. Not chemicals. Not mystery. Ice. Soot. Physics. And an atmosphere that has been quietly recording every flight that has ever passed through it. The sky above you is not empty. It never was. It has been keeping a record. And you have been walking under it your entire life without ever looking up long enough to read it. If this changed how you see something that was always above you, hit like. Share it with someone who has never questioned those white lines. And subscribe, because what we show you next will make this look simple.